how's it going? It's That Nerd Ryan here, and today we are talking about my most anticipated movie of 2023, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I've been excited for this movie since the first trailer. You guys have kind of watched my journey of reacting to those, and yeah, this movie is probably my most hyped for this year. Besides maybe Flash, and it's honestly beat out Flash because I only want to see Flash for Batman. This I wanted to see for everybody. And what really got me more hyped was rewatching Guardians 1 and 2. And the holiday special, and some of I Am Groot. I didn't get to watch all of I Am Groot before watching the movie. But I have to say, this is definitely the third best third movie in the Marvel franchise. What I mean by that is No Way Home is number 1, Infinity War is number 2, and Guardians 3 is number 3. This is just a great movie, well put together. Great send-off to the director and all the characters. We are going to get into spoiler territory later on. I was going to say something there. I realized I should probably stop myself. But yeah, all I have to say is this movie is amazing. I was nervous going into the movie for multiple reasons. One, I thought this was going to be a kill fest. Light spoiler here, it is not. I also thought that this being James Gunn's last movie and how Marvel treated him, which I would completely understand if he self-sabotaged the movie. But he did not. I also was worried that this was going to be some sort of sequel-itis sort of thing where it gets hyped up and everything and it ends up not being that good. But yeah, so surprisingly, all of my worries were wrong. But yeah, it ended up probably taking the top spot so far for this year. Maybe indefinitely top spot. But we will find out by the end of the year. But yeah, I thought this was just a phenomenal movie. I thought the acting was perfect. I thought the soundtrack was amazing. I was also nervous about that with how it's now the Zoom instead of the mixtapes that would be choosing songs that, like, I don't really care for, but honestly, every single song on the soundtrack I really enjoyed. The story was good, the plot, character development. Something that I thought was really good is we do actually get from point A to point B or C from the first Guardians movie all the way to the last one of these characters' developments, which we'll get to that in the spoiler section, but we do get basically what I felt was the most rewarding story arc for every character in this. Like literally every single character had a+ story arc throughout the movies, which we'll again get to it. I thought the villain was okay. This is definitely Rocket's story, and what is nice about that, which also is I have a small issue with, because Rocket is one of my favorite characters in the series, but it's Rocket's story, so it focuses more on Rocket, and focuses more on the team as well, to where the villain, even though he is very important, he is kind of put in the back line of everything. The villain is the High Evolutionary. We also have Adam Warlock. Warlock is a minor villain who I feel he gets more screen time than the High Evolutionary does. I could be wrong, but he was a good kind of goofy side villain. They kind of did like Vision, but turned up to 11 with the infatality of him, of like just being born yesterday. And I thought he was a good standout, and I'm happy that we'll most likely see him again Um, and I liked the settings. I liked Counter Earth. I liked how Nowhere looks. I did have a little gripe with Nowhere too that we'll get to. Actually, it's not a spoiler. We could get to it right now. It felt this way in the holiday special too, and I gave it slack in the holiday special because I figured it probably had less of a budget than this movie. But Nowhere does feel too much like a set now. I mean, it's all cleaned up and it's like a reputable place and everything. But anytime something was shot in Nowhere, it felt like a set, if you get what I'm saying. Like an old school 60s movie set where like you could tell it's fake, obviously. That is my only gripe with like the setting and everything, or like the backdrop. I don't know why I never got that feeling in the first movie, but in the holiday special and in this, Nowhere just kind of looks, I think it's the lighting, makes it look a little fake. But yeah, the Bowie, probably my favorite ship so far. It just looks really cool. The Milano and Benatar were great, don't get me wrong, but the Bowie, I thought, was the best ship. So with that, I will give a ranking and then we'll get into spoilers, just so that way, if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can end it right after my ranking. If you don't care about spoilers or you've seen it, then we can talk about it. So I'm giving this movie a 9 out of 10. I honestly think it probably helps save the MCU. So with that, I'm going to count down from 10 and we're going to get into spoilers. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last chance. Thank you for watching if you're leaving. Now let's get into spoilers. So I'm not going to do a full recap of the movie, obviously, because, I mean, you guys probably just watched it if you're watching this, or stumbled upon this as you're watching it, or whatever. But yeah, we're not going to do a full recap because that's going to kind of bore you guys. It's not like movie night. So, the gripe that I had is Rocket is probably my favorite or second favorite Guardian next to Drax. I don't like that he was benched for most of the movie. I get it. It is for the plot to show Rocket's past and everything, but him getting stabbed the first 15 minutes into the movie and then being out of it till probably the last 30 minutes of the movie, it felt like you felt the absence in the movie, and not in a sad, good way. It's just, Rocket always had the best lines in all the other movies. Him and Drax did, obviously. Like I said, Drax is probably one of my favorites. All these characters are my favorites. I mean, they're a very good team. But Rocket always had the good one-liners and just good insults and everything. And when you don't see that in the movie, it does feel the absence. And like I said, I understand why they had to do this. I also felt one last gripe was there's too many fake-out deaths. The number 2, not 2 like over-exaggerated. But yeah, I did feel there's really technically 3 fake-out deaths. Maybe 4, depending on how you view it, because I'll tell you why I thought about it this way. But there's 2 major ones, 1 tiny one, and 1 that you can argue isn't even a fake death. So the first one is Rocket getting stabbed, as well as when they're trying to revive him literally going up to heaven, talking to Lula, or whatever afterlife, and flatlining. I count that as 1. But yeah, so that, and then Peter dropping the zoom, and then almost getting caught in the explosion, and then suffocating in space, only to get saved by Adam, is another one. And what's kind of funny is my girlfriend, even while we were sitting there, he's like bloating up and everything, she's like, he's still alive? It doesn't go that fast. And I actually thought they're going to bring him in, and he was going to be like non-revivable. Um, there's a mini fake out death, like of Mantis, Drax, and Nebula, or Mantis and Drax, because Nebula could survive in space, most likely, where they start suffocating because they're in higher atmosphere and they're starting to freeze over. That you can't really count that, or you could kind of count that. You can't really, but yeah, they did that, and then the last one. This was just, I wouldn't even fully consider this. I just think it's my mind, but I also look back at the other Guardians movies, Suicide Squad and Peacekeeper, and like it does feel like this could have been a death. Is like Mantis connecting with those creatures from the second movie. I forgot what they're called, but she goes to connect with it and then like puts her hand on it. I was waiting, and I would have been mad if this happened. I literally would have been mad. I'm like, this is not how you kill off a hero. Is she puts her hand on it, and I thought it was going to be like, and like eat her. But it doesn't. It actually leads to a good character moment. That's why I don't fully count it, because I mean, it would have been a joke death if it was an actual death. And luckily, James Gunn is smart enough not to do that to beloved characters. I mean, like, the Suicide Squad, I could see that happening because it's the Suicide Squad. This is a group of characters that we've grown to love over the past 9 years. But yeah, so anyways, though I felt like the fake out deaths were not as impactful as they were supposed to be because they were fake out deaths. I'm honestly 100% surprised we did not lose a single Guardian in this entire movie. We actually gained some, but yeah, nobody dies. And it's a weird thing to be like, I'm upset because nobody dies. I'm not fully upset, but like, it did feel, because we lose Yondu in the second movie, we kind of lose Groot in the first movie. So with that, it makes you think like, okay, that means that like, this whole scenario in this third movie was not as important as the first two movies, let alone Infinity War, where Gamora is permanently dead. I think that was weird where there was no loss in this movie because, like I said, it makes it feel less than the other two. Like, which is weird because I think this is my favorite out of the three, but at the same time, it's like it's less impactful than them losing Yondu or them losing Groot. Or them losing Gamora, or losing literally everybody but Nebula and Rocket. Which there is a nice touch of showing how much those two actually care for each other because they've bonded more than anybody on the team. That I thought was great. But yeah, that was a weird thing that I was like, okay, so, like when Peter's about to die, I was like, okay, this is going to be the major death. And then Adam goes and saves him, and then he like gets up. He's like, "Did that look cool?" I was like, "Okay." I mean, that's nice, but like, I sound like a jerk saying I'm mad that all of them got a happy ending. But I mean, I think you guys understand what I'm trying to get at, because like it sounds like it's such a jerk thing to say, but I think that was. I also think it was for the better. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, though. Another thing that I really liked was just like very awesome musical moments. There's actually like when they were doing the big fight montage with No Sleep Till Brooklyn, me and my girlfriend were sitting there like, no sleep till Brooklyn. They're like jamming out. And we were really, really enjoying it. And like, I think one of my new favorite songs is We Care a Lot by Faith No More, just because that was like a bop in the show. And it also is a bop in real life. But yeah. And then what I really liked about this that they didn't really show in the other movies is the Guardians actually saving people. I mean, you kind of see it in Guardians 1, but it's not like personal saving people. They killed the main villain, and woohoo, not all of Xandar died. You don't actually see them actively stopping Ronan from killing someone. Second one, it's personal, it's about ego. Yes, he's expanding the worlds, or his seeds and everything, but you don't get to see them saving the individuals from that. This movie, you get to see them save all the kids, all the animals that were trapped in the higher evolutionaries building, which I just thought that was great. And like, I know some people feel like, oh, that's to raise the stakes and blah blah blah. But no, that was a cool thing, because you don't really see that much in superhero movies. Mainly Marvel. I mean, you get to see it in the Batman. You get to see it in the Spider-Man movie, or Spider-Man Homecoming. But like, it's such a rare thing that really stands out when it happens. And I thought that was great. I do want to say, too, how Peter almost dies is literally, to me, the most relatable thing in the world. So the whole reason why he gets left behind for a minute is because he drops his Zoom. And I, right there, I was like, yeah, I completely understand that. Like, the instant that happened, I was like, yeah, I get it. So now let's talk about those character development arcs. So it's what's sad is, in modern media, it's very rare to see full-on character arcs. One of my best examples to do this, and I hate to talk about it, I really do, but if you compare modern Disney Star Wars to this. So if you look at, let's just say, Rey and Finn's arc Rey, Finn, and Poe's arc for the sake of everything. So Rey's arc is she's a nobody. She finds out she's a nobody. Then she finds out she's related to somebody, and then she takes somebody else's name. That's kind of like that. Finn's is he gets away from the army. He dies for the opposite, or he tries to die for the opposite, non-existent. Poe's is he's a pilot, he's a little cocky. Now he's a general that's still a little cocky. That's barely a character arc. Guardians, so we start out, let's just go with Star-Lord. We start out with somebody that gets abducted from Earth and thrown into a thing of petty thieves that ends up saving the galaxy multiple times, and then finally has the courage to go home and meet his family. That's great. You have Drax, who starts out as somebody only caring about revenge and murdering the people that murdered his family, to somebody that's a goofball, to somebody that can actually take responsibility of an entire generation of kids and help mold them into a good product of society. Gamora, I am going to skip. I haven't talked about Gamora at all. I do want to say I do like this iteration of Gamora. I did like the fact that her and Peter did not end up together. I thought that was very, very good. Because she is not the same person that died on that rock. She is literally... The only issue I have with that is she was getting ready to leave Thanos at the point where they picked her up. Because it was literally like a week, if that, before the events of Guardians of the Galaxy. So, like, she would probably have been willing to join the Guardians, especially with Nebula there. But, like, because she, like, actively hates all of them at the beginning. And it doesn't feel right. It feels like they picked up Gamora in 2012 and not 2014. That's the only thing that I thought was weird. But we're not going to touch Gamora because completely different character from the first movie. Well, kind of. You get what I mean. Complicated. Rocket, we get from a guy that's an asshole that doesn't care about anybody to somebody that actively rescues animals and people, becomes his own person, and leads the Guardians of the Galaxy. Groot we are also going to skip over because that's kind of complicated because we get to kind of see one, Groot from Guardians 1 and Groot from Guardians 2 and 3 are different characters. And 2, we do get to see Groot in the second movie as a baby that's goofy. Like, it's a goofy joke character that ended up being, like, a very big character, to a goofy buff boy. So Groot, it's complicated. I mean, obviously, he is kind of more of Rocket's best friend that'll do whatever he says. And it's kind of hard to get a CGI character that can only say 3 words to get a full character arc, because you have to have other characters narrate for him. But yeah. And then you get, so we did Drax, Rocket, Peter. Mantis, who in the second movie was a follower. At the end she realizes she needs to find herself. And then what I think is the best arc, like I actually did tear up a little bit at this, was Nebula's arc of being a cold-hearted assassin that doesn't care about anybody but herself and whoever the most powerful person is, to somebody that's willing to run nowhere, care for all these new kids that showed up. We get to see her smile and dance at the end of the movie. We get to see Drax dance too, which was a big thing. But like, she's like smiling, dancing, enjoying her life for the first time, it feels like, and I just thought that was beautiful. But yeah, for those characters, it's great. And I mean, still Groot, it's hard to put into words his arc. I thought Groot's arc was good though. And then, like I said, you do have to skip Gamora because it is very complicated. But yeah, I thought that was a great story arc. I think Nebula's story arc was the best out of everybody. So let's talk about post-credits really quick. First one introduces us to the new Guardians of the Galaxy, being Rocket, Groot, Kraglin, Cosmo, and a girl Adam Warlock, and a girl that we don't know the name of. Probably is somebody important from the comics that I just don't know. Maybe it's Angela. Probably not. But yeah, that was a solid lineup, solid scene. Calls back to the first movie with "Come and Get Your Love" playing. I really liked that. I liked Adam Warlock being like, they're like, "Who's your favorite musician?" He's like, I forgot who he says, but he's like all confident about it and everything. I really hope we do get to see more of Adam Warlock because he was just hilarious throughout the entire movie. And then the last one is Peter eating breakfast with his grandpa, being like, "Hey, you don't have to watch me cut the grass, you know. I'm a 45-year-old man." It's kind of weird with his grandpa sitting there watching him. He's like, you just don't get it. And then it says Star-Lord will return. I don't know what that means, if it's going to be him as an Avenger, or his own movie, or him reforming his own, like, Guardians of Earth or something. But yeah, I can't wait to see what they do with that. I also do feel that this new iterations of Guardians will be either getting a show or a movie or a special. Because, I mean, they're not just going to leave this new team and be like, yeah, you're good. You're never going to see them again. Because the two members on that team are them and Star-Lord. So Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, and Vin Diesel are the only ones that didn't say, and I think Karen Gillan, I could be wrong, were the only ones that didn't say that they were done after this movie. The only complication with the whole Karen Gillan thing would mean that Drax is also there, since they're running nowhere, but Dave Bautista said he was done. But yeah, I mean, they might work a way around it. But yeah, so that was my thoughts on Guardians 3. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell. Follow me on all my social media down below. It's That Nerd Ryan.